Welcome and thank you for joining in. If you are baking along, the things that you're going to need is your heavy whipping cream, mascarpone, confectionery sugar, vanilla. That is for the whipped cream. And for the chantilly berry cake, you need 1 cup of flour, the zest of 1 full lemon, 1 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of cornstarch, half a cup of oil, and you can use vegetable oil, you can use a coconut oil, choose your oil of choice that will go well, of course, in a cake. And then I also have, you need some vanilla, 2 teaspoons, and you need berries, and that's about it. It's really not a very difficult recipe. So welcome everyone. We are live at 5 and I'm so excited. I have a lot to share with you today. Number one, I want to share with you that I spent the day yesterday testing a new cake because I thought, oh, you know, maybe people are trying new things. I'm going to try a gluten-free flour because I am gluten-free, but that's fine because I have many people I can bring the cake to when it's done. So I tried with gluten-free flour. I tried honey and maple syrup instead of sugar. I did all of these more extravagant things in doing the cake. Really basic things, but really different than what you would normally do in a regular cake. So I baked 7 cakes yesterday. So what did I do? Like everyone does, I think I'm going to outdo myself and I'm going to do something better than I've done before. Now this cake is a no-fail cake. And the reason that it is a no-fail cake, every time I've made it, even if the texture wasn't perfect, everyone loved it. And I especially remember one time making the cake and I stayed at someone's house and in the morning we got up, I said, oh, we should eat the leftover cake with our coffee this morning. And why don't I just get that out? And she looked at me and we got the cake out. There's 1 piece left. I'm like, what happened to the cake? Because there was a half cake. And she says, I got up in the middle of the night and I ate it because it was so good. So if you want to make a cake like that someone dreams about after eating it and they want to get up in the middle of the night, this is the cake for you. So I've already actually started it with our mixer because I want to make sure you understand the consistency and how you have the ribbon-like effect in this batter. So in here, we have the first things. We have 6 eggs, 6 full eggs, not separated. And then we have 4 egg yolks. So you put the whites away for an omelet or something else, or you can make some meringue, would be great. We have that. And then we have 1 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of vanilla. I love this M&B vanilla, and the reason I love this is because it's so pure. It's also no sugar added, all natural, gluten-free, and non-hydrogenated. So this is really a fabulous vanilla, but I love even more vanilla paste. I made the cakes with vanilla paste. And vanilla paste, you can see it's a full bean, and it's absolutely gorgeous, a fabulous taste. Whatever recipe I do, when it calls for vanilla, I always double the amount that they ask for because I love the vanilla taste. So you might want to do that too. So we've got our egg yolks, eggs, sugar, vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and the zest of 1 lemon, which I've already put in here. But zesting a lemon, you know, sometimes if you're not a baker and something calls for zest, you're like, oh, I don't do that. Why not? Zesting a lemon is so easy. It's just basically like, kind of like shaving your legs, like shaving a lemon. So I'm sure nobody has probably pointed to that, but that's okay, came to my mind. So it's not really that much lemon, but it's a really nice hint of lemon and it tastes so good. So you definitely want to add that into it. And do know that we doubled the amount of vanilla instead of original recipe. I think it was 1 teaspoon. I put 2 teaspoons of vanilla paste, but I used all my vanilla paste. So now we're using vanilla extract, which I've already put in here. I've started this already going. What you want to do is put your mixer on high. And when a recipe calls for the mixer on high, I put it on number 8. And so I wish I could show you right now like how this is looking. It might be kind of hard to tell this. but it's more important that I show you when it's finished and how I know it's finished. You want 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and I want you to think about your flour. What is your go-to flour? What flour do you use that makes a good cake? Or have you always made box cakes? If you've always made box cakes, well, it's time to turn the page because we're spending a lot of time at home. We have more time to certainly do that. So instead of sifting this flour, I like to sift the flours because if they're chunky, then you have those chunks in your cake. I do that also for the confectionery sugar that I use for the whipped cream. It's doing good. Never more than 5 minutes. This is the rule of thumb with this. I stop it, generally at 4 minutes. I did it 2 minutes before we got online. And just want to share with you, if you don't want to take the time to sift, you can use a beater like this with some beads, whisk like this with beads on the end, or even a regular whisk. I like this because it really sifts my flour so nice. You can see, like, it's just really, really powdery, and I really love that. So we're gonna mix the cornstarch and the flour together. We're going to whisk them together. Really simple. So is everyone having a berry Monday? So Mondays are typically my favorite day of the week. I love Monday. I think that I get so many things done on Monday. And I just think it's a really great day of the week. Most people love Fridays, but I really love Monday. So happy Monday to all of you. So as that is whisking up, I just want to share with you also, before we actually put our cake together, I've got some simple syrup here. And this is just an equal part of sugar and water. And you boil them until it is thickened enough that you could actually brush on the cake. The reason for doing this, number one, to keep your cake fresher longer if you poke holes in your cake especially, but also keeps your cake really, really moist. Now this cake has been sitting out today and made them last night, so you know, humidity kind of plays a role. If I were doing it for guests, if I had everything else ready, I would like to make the cake the day that the guests actually arrive. I'm just going to brush our cakes like this. You can see I used 2 molds here. I used a fluted round mold, and I also used a fluted charcoal. This one is a little bit larger than this one. And I was going to make like 3 or 4 layers, but you can see this is almost like a full cake. I feel that this will be good even without doing that, but we can actually get away. We don't want to overbeat the cake. We could get away with just doing 2 layers. So that's simple syrup, and we have brushed that on top of our cake. So the way I'm going to check. Oops. Sometimes that happens. It's not done yet, and the reason that I know is because it's only pouring straight down, so it's not thick enough yet. When it's thick enough, it is actually going to make a beautiful ribbon. So it's probably got another minute or so on here. We're just going to allow that to keep going. But in the meantime, I want to share with you about the whipped cream. So the whipped cream, I've already made the whipped cream because I don't want you to have to listen to the mixer the entire class. The whipped cream is really important. You take your 1 pint of whipped cream, and you can do 1/4 of a cup of confectionery sugar, or you could do 1/2. You put these together with a tablespoon or more of vanilla, and you whip them up for about 3.5 minutes. Once you whip them up, you'll see your whipped cream will come out really thick and really nice like this. Then, to stabilize your whipped cream, especially when you're going to use it on a cake, just not on a dessert, the cake may not get all eaten at once. So mascarpone cream is a cream that is really yeah, now my cake is, wow, I went the wrong way. Everyone makes mistakes. So if you look at the cake right now, I'm going to take this off of here, and I want to show you exactly how this looks. Here is the cake, and watch, this cake Do you see when it falls, it goes pretty much in a ribbon, and it's going to do that even more so because I'm going to put the flour in now. It looks so beautiful, you can almost forget the flour, but it won't become a cake that way. So I'm going to put this back on here, and I'm just going to add our flour, and we'll put this down, and we'll turn this back on. Maybe I'll do just another few seconds on high. Another few seconds on high, and the cake is definitely, you don't want to overbeat it. When it starts getting really dreamy looking, like a really fluffy look of the cake, that's when you're going to want to definitely turn it off. And then we're going to take our flour and cornstarch that's mixed together. And what you want to do with this, you do not want to overmix it. This batter is ready right now. So all I'm going to do is take the time to put this in on low. And then as soon as it's mixed, I'm going to finish folding it in, and then I'm going to put it in our pans. So on low, the mixer is on 2 or 3. You don't have to make sure everything is mixed before you dump the rest in, but you just do it in a slow process. So you can see our flour and cornstarch are in there. This is a dreamy mix. This is what I love. When you see your mix like this, it's very exciting. It just looks like absolutely the best thing ever. So I'm going to take a spatula, take this one here from the fruit. And I'm just going to fold in the ingredients to make sure that the flour, you can see I'm going to scrape the side of the bowl because you can see there's still flour in the side of the bowl. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to ruin the integrity of my mix right now. All I want to do is just mix in this little bit of flour. So I'm being very, very gentle because I don't want to mess up my great cake. But I'm also going to go down to the bottom, and I'm just going to swirl the spatula around without lifting it up too much. Because you want to make sure that all the flour is combined. And remember, in this mix, this isn't about mixing flour. This is about mixing eggs, and it leaves this beautiful, look at this, beautiful, beautiful, dreamy looking cake. It's just so gorgeous. So what I'm going to do is I did with our round tart mold. You never need any grease, oil, or spray with this. And I'm going to put close to half, but not quite, of the mix in there. And then I'm going to take the other mold, which is our tart mold. This mold is actually good. I love that mold, and I use it all the time. I use it for quiche. I use it for everything. You could even go as far as roasting a chicken in here and leaving it open. Look at this beautiful mix. See that ribbon that's happening? If that kind of ribbon doesn't happen when you pour your mix, then it was not mixed enough, and you can't remix it once you put the flour in. So we want to make sure. I have made this cake so many times, and I will tell you that I've shared with people how to make it. And I had one lady working for me that always did this cake wrong. Every time I would ask her, she'd tell me, I've made the cake 4 times and the cake doesn't work. I said, well, because you start doing something else and you forget about the dreamy cake over there. And if you're not going to pay attention to this mix, don't make it if you don't have time. And it doesn't take long. The ingredients are few, and you can make this beautiful cake in no time at all. So you can see I pretty much scraped the inside here. Then I'm going to, this is so important too. I want to make sure that my cake is correctly done and that it bakes evenly. And the one way to get the cake to bake evenly is to put it in the oven even. So what we do is just to get the air out, it's done. So I can cook them both at one time. I do one close to the bottom rack and one on the middle rack. And always have your oven already preheated. So now about assembling the cake. So we did our eggs, we have everything going on here. And before I actually do that, I'd like to share with you, it's been really rainy here all day today, and I was thinking I need a summery drink, but it doesn't feel like summer to me. So I thought, you know what, I tried this great Pinot Noir the other night with my sister-in-law, which I've had it before, but I actually joined their wine club. And this is from Three Sticks Winery. And Three Sticks Winery is done by the Price family out of Sonoma, and it's in the Sonoma coast. And it is absolutely, I believe it's rather private, but that you can find their wine out. I mean, it's not privately sold. I'm just saying if you want to go there, you can join your wine club and go. But this Pinot is delightful. It's not too heavy and it's not too light. And I really want to thank Teresa Bidon Fuel, because her father actually set up a meeting when we did our incentive trip there last year where we could go to a beautiful wine tasting there. And if you haven't ever looked up Three Sticks Winery, I don't work for them or make money on anything that they do, but I know they have really good wine. So I highly should suggest Three Sticks Winery. And I say cheers to you. Let's continue going. Beautiful. You could even drink this with the berry cake. So step number one, we have our cake, we unmolded it. Do know, if your cake isn't unmolding, you need to stick it in the freezer for a minute, because cakes that have a high volume of sugar that are really light and fluffy like this, these cakes, you don't want to unmold them before their time. So you want to make sure that the cakes are actually cool and cool for more than 5 minutes, and then try the unmolding process, and they should come out really beautifully. These came out great. Always rotate your cakes in the oven halfway through, and you might also want to switch shelves. If I'm baking 2 cakes, I switch the shelves up, put them in between. When I rotate them around, put them on the opposite shelf, because then you have more even cooking going on. So the reason, like I said, this is really great whipped cream. This is homemade whipped cream, takes 3 minutes. So if you're a Cool Whip user, you don't have to be. I just want to say that. If you're a Cool Whip eater, you haven't tasted the best whipped cream yet. So this one is with the mascarpone, as I mentioned, and the reason for the mascarpone is because we want a stabilizer. We don't want the whipped cream to just kind of, you know, find its way just melting into the cake, even though the cake's cool, but it dissipates as it sits. You can't leave the whipped cream out. But when you have this mascarpone with it, and mascarpone is like a cream cheese, and mascarpone also, it doesn't have a lot of taste. Like, it doesn't taste like cream cheese, but it makes your whipped cream taste really good. So I'm just going to put a bunch in the middle here. So what we're doing is a rather naked cake, not naked with frosting around the outside and seeing part of the cake. We're doing a naked cake because our superstar is not the cake. Our superstar is the fruit. So we want to make sure that we get to the fruit. So I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, what is chantilly about this? Well, do you know the difference between whipped cream and chantilly cream? One ingredient. Vanilla. So when you put vanilla in, your whipped cream then becomes chantilly cream. And it's just that easy. A lot of people say, oh, it's because it has mascarpone, it's because of this. No. Stéphane Glacier, who is a MOF, French top chef, he says the difference in regular whipped cream and chantilly cream is always the vanilla. So it's that simple. So I'm just using an offset spatula here, and I want to kind of bring it out to the edge. And you can put as much as you like. Oop, a little bit in there. I don't want to ruin my edges though, but a lot of people say that you should put in enough whipped cream that there's enough in every bite of the cake. Well, yes, I do agree with that, but come on. The cake is so good, you don't need just whipped cream. You want a good amount of each one of the ingredients to bring about the best marriage of all flavors coming together, right? There was a time when I thought that I couldn't even make a good cake. Like yesterday, actually, that's true, because the gluten-free one that I made was an absolute and utter disaster. Even though I followed every single thing in the recipe, it just wasn't good. And even my husband said, "What's wrong with this cake?" I'm like, "It's terrible. I threw it out. I couldn't even keep it." So we're gonna just put a little bit more here. So I'm using about half, and remember I used 1 pint of whipped cream, which this recipe could call for up to 4 cups of heavy whipping cream, but I don't see the necessity in that. So now I'm going to start. This isn't about perfection. So now I'm going to start. I want to tell you about the simple syrup. So the simple syrup I have here in the little white bowl. Where'd we go? Okay, here. I brushed the cake with it. And I'm also going to brush the berries with it a little bit instead of putting, the berries this time of year are not that sweet. If I was doing this in the heat of summer or late spring, when the berries are a lot better, I would not use this, but I might still brush the cake with it because it keeps your cake moist. In France, they said that all bakers, they put the simple syrup on their cake and they can keep their cakes for up to 2 weeks. So there's a lot to be said for that. So, oops, I'm going to do the strawberries just a little bit. I did put a little bit on here earlier. Some people also put lemon on them. Just move this cornstarch out of our way. And what I like to do is I like to put the berries kind of sticking out on the side of the cake. And unfortunately, some of the berries that I bought, I mean, they really were not looking that great. So in order to have enough for everything, you want to skip a little bit of space, and you want to make sure that people have fruit in every single bite of the cake. So what do you think so far? This is not hard, right? As long as you mix your cake batter to ribbon, mix to ribbon. Once it ribbons, you are home free. Cool. So this looks really good. I'm going to push them out a little bit because I love it when they're kind of sticking out on the side. And then I'm going to take the next piece of our cake here. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to put some berries in here. And raspberries generally don't do well in things as well as other berries. Blueberries hold up really well. And I think that all berries, people generally like, if they like berries, they like all berries. Wouldn't you agree? So remember, this is underneath the cake. So you don't have to be perfect about your design here, but you want to think about, what do you want the top of your cake to look like? How do you see that? Do you want a special design? Do you want to leave room for someone's name? Do you just want to mix a bunch of berries up? I'll put a few more blackberries in here. You can see that I'm pretty random about this, and that's absolutely fine. This is kind of like a rustic, old-fashioned type of cake. I don't ever remember eating this cake as a child, but I do remember eating it many times as an adult. And of course, we love it. Everyone loves this cake. People that don't eat cake love this cake. So this is the cake. If you want to be a superstar at your next event, this is the one you need, or this weekend. So we're going to just put this top on top of there. You can see how nice that looks with all the berries. I love to do a larger cake on the bottom, a medium cake in the middle. Then you could do a smaller cake on top or one the same size, but you don't even need to put another one on top. So I'm going to do the same thing. I've already brushed this cake with the simple syrup. And I'm just going to put a bunch of the whipped cream on here. Do know that once you put the mascarpone in, it turns a creamy color. It's not bright white anymore like whipped cream. I kind of miss that, but I also want my cake to stay good for a long period of time. So I'm just going to smooth this around here. There's nothing about being perfect with this cake. This cake is a perfect cake to make if you're not much of a cake maker and you don't want to try something really hard, because you know what, cakes can get frustrating, and if you fail, you feel like you don't want to do it again. But let's stop and think about all those nurses and doctors that are taking care of people with COVID right now. How many times when they saw a young person die, or they saw, one of their coworkers, and they thought, I don't even want to do this job anymore, but you know what, they showed up to work the next day. So making a cake and failing is no big deal, right? Right. So we're doing really good here. We've got a lot of greatness going on here. This cake is going to taste absolutely amazing. So it's kind of coming out on the sides, but I'm not going to frost around it because remember, I already put the simple syrup on that. And it's going to stay moist and it's going to stay sweet. But what I do want to make sure is that this is even. No particular beauty, because the beauty is the fruit. The fruit is the superstar. Okay, so I'm going to start with my berries. My hands are so sticky from the simple syrup, of course. Anyone can make this cake. Any of you can make this cake. How many of you are going to try it? It's so simple. I promise I'm going to post the recipe exactly as I taught you today because I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to remain superstardom in whatever you're doing in the kitchen. You know, the kitchen is not a place of chore. It's a place of pleasure. And once you build that relationship with your kitchen, it's a game changer. Everything changes and all for the better. So now it's the top of the cake. So what I'm going to do is a little bit of a design. I'm going to put the berries in between. Here. It's not about perfection though, just remember. It's not about perfect, it's just about yum. Your cake is going to taste so good, and this weekend when you make it, your family is going to be so impressed with you that they're going to be like, wow, did you actually make that cake? And you're going to say, yes, I did, and it was very simple, and you can make it too. This is a great, even for a birthday cake, because this is not the cake. Cake lovers love almost every cake. Cake haters don't like any cake except this one. I promise you. So now I'm going to get some better looking raspberries. Always save the best berries for the top of your cake. In no particular fashion. I'm just following my line. Where I need color, I am putting the berries. You know, when I was a child, I had my next door neighbor had berry bushes, and they were so kind. They didn't have any children. We had eight kids in our family, and they always allowed us to pick their berries and eat them. And every time I have berries this time of year, I think of that. And then I think of my neighbor down the street, the only one that we knew that had a cherry tree, that used to let us climb up in the tree and get the cherries. And when I think of that, it's like, yeah, this is the true neighborhood, true neighborly thing to do. And it's just so cool that people can share like that. How many of you created a garden this weekend? What was funny is my oldest daughter did a garden, we did a garden, and my second daughter did a garden too. So we all were gardening. Well, I didn't actually do it, I tell the truth. Tony did it with his friends, but did a really good job. So you can see, here's our berry cake. There's one more thing I'd like to do. I have this balsamic, traditional balsamic, because I like the cake just to be a little bit different. And I'm going to take this little whisk, and I'm going to drizzle some balsamic. The taste of the cream, the balsamic, the sweetness of the cherries, and with the simple syrup and the cake, it's going to be absolutely amazing. So this is actually good. I don't want a lot on here, but I want a flirtation of this balsamic going across my cake and onto my berries. Not all of them, but sometimes I just want people to have a taste of that. This is really thick. I've taken our traditional balsamic, and I didn't do the fruit one because I didn't want to confuse the different fruits on the actual cake. So you can see this is pretty thick, and that's okay. But this is the best way to really get this done, is just spatter it. So when people have a piece of this cake, it's not only going to taste sweet, it's going to have that punch of the balsamic. And sweet with balsamic is the most beautiful marriage of things coming together. So that's my berry cake. I hope all of you are ready to certainly enjoy a berry cake of your own. And those of you that have joined us today, I thank you for joining in. This is your masterpiece, berry cake. It's a Chantilly berry cake because of the vanilla and the cream. And I wish all of you a fabulous day. I hope that you can come on again and enjoy us for our next class is going to be simple tartlets that anyone can make and everyone loves. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.